pleasures come, we must never stop the way, yeah. Birds jumping and I hear my name, grasping into a life. Life is happy but it's so insane. We must merely make a start. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a roll. Savannah. Gonna come, the birds have just begun. We will always take a stand for the people, for the land. Let's go back to when we were young. For the animals we stand. Let's go back to when trees were swung. Kids across the land. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a roll. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah.
Good evening, hello, and welcome to the Champions League Group Stage Draw Live on the Sports Corner. How are we all doing today? Hope you're all good. Welcome to the stream. As you can see on the screen, we've got live build-up from now until 4 o'clock. The draw takes place 4 p.m. UK time, so keep your eyes on the prize because in about half an hour's time, we'll hopefully find out who is going to be facing who in the group stages. Now, I'm going to say here a little bit of an apology before we start. You might experience a slight little bit of lag at the beginning. We are trying to run with some cameras today, but we've had a few issues at the start. So if the cameras do lag, do give us a second, do hold on. We might lag for a little bit, but if the cameras do lag, we're going to go sound only, and I'll bring my camera on in a little bit. But we're going to get the boys in a moment. We've got about half an hour until the draw kicks in. And as you can see on the screen, the pots in the background are rolling. Put your thoughts and opinions throughout tonight's show in the chat. I can see there's a hell of a lot of you in here. Thank you to everybody who's been subscribing already. Very greatly appreciated. Bernaldo, hello boys. Welcome to stream, Bernaldo. Dominator putting Rest in Peace into Deserve Pot 2. There's plenty to talk about in the next half an hour. So let's get the boys ready and we'll be rolling with our previous show in just a moment's time. So once again, hello and welcome to the Champions League Group Stage Live. We've got our live reactions coming up in just a moment's time. The boys are ready. They're ready to go. Once again, I'm going to say here, very quick apologies. If it just lags very slightly, we had a few technical issues at the start. We might have a little bit lag once again. But I'm going to try and get the boys on. If it does lag slightly, do give us a moment or two. We're going to have to quickly change something up very, very quickly. So, of course, we do get a nice smooth running stream. But it was lagging at the start. But we are ready to go. And we'll get the boys on the screen in just a moment's time. Here we go. Welcome along, boys, to the stream. We are ready to go. And fingers crossed here, We shouldn't have any lag in 3, 2, 1, bang. There we go. How are we all doing? Welcome along to our live stream for the Champions League. I can already see the bar on the bottom left-hand corner is saying there's a bit of slight lag. Hopefully it's just for a second or two. Do tell us in the chat if there is a little bit of lag. But joining us today for the watch-along, you could say, of the group stage draw, we have Rowan, we have Will, and we have Kieran. How are we all doing?
I'm good.
Very good, thank you very much. Are we all looking forward to the draw?
Ooh, looking forward
Very
to it,
much.
yeah.
It's an interesting one.
So I would have looked more forward to it if a certain team didn't get spanked yesterday.
Yes, a little bit frustrating on that behalf. Once again, do give us a heads up in the chat. Is there a little bit of lag? I'm looking at the screen right now. There's a very slight bit of lag. Nothing too major, hopefully. If it's too laggy, do tell us in the comments below. We'll turn the cameras off. We'll go sound only, and I'll put my camera on so that at least there's something on the screen, even if it is an ugly mug. But we've got 26 minutes until we go for the draw to kick off.
Down like that, Josh.
Oh, I've got to, haven't I? Chris has put in the chat, hi lads, hope you're all well. Welcome in, Chris. Hope you're all good, buddy. But as we said, we've got 25 minutes to go until the draw does start. We've got plenty to talk about. We're going to talk about a lot of the teams in here. We're going to make our predictions and just see what happens, because it could be a wacky draw indeed. Now, as the draw takes place tonight, there is also a couple of awards being given out. Best manager, best player in terms of the Champions League. So there will be breaks in between when the pots are being drawn out. But I'm going to take the boys off the screen for now. They are going to be with us. We're going to have a quick gander through the pots ahead of the draw in 25 minutes. Now, Chris has put slight lag, but that's it. At least it's not lagging majorly bad. So let's take the boys off the screen. As you can see right now, this is pot 1. Let me take my Limo off the screen. There we go. Pot 1 for the draw. We've got Bayern Munich, of course, the Champions League winners. Real Madrid, Juventus, Zenit, Sevilla, Liverpool, PSG and Porto. So that is pot 1, which we'll talk about some of those teams in just a moment's time. Pot 2, we've got it's just crazy right now. The pots are mad. Barcelona, Manchester City, Shakhtar Donetsk, Chelsea, a lot of Premier League clubs in here. Atletico Madrid, Manchester United, Borussia Dortmund and Ajax are all in pot 2. In pot 3, Dynamo Kiev came through last night in the playoffs. RB Leipzig, the semi-finalists, Olympiacos, Krasnodar, Salzburg, Inter Milan, Lazio and Atalanta. That is pot 3. And to finish off, we have pot 4, which, as you can see on the screen, does feature a couple of those teams that did go through last night. Lokomotiv Moscow, Club Brugge, Istanbul Basaksehir, Stade Rennes, who are competing for the first time in this competition. Congratulations to them. Marseille, Gladbach, Midtjylland and Ferencvaros, of course. First time that they've been in the Champions League since the 90s. So congratulations to them for getting through as well. Looking at the teams, boys, there's some very tasty ones on paper. I'm going to start off with a question here. Who do you think could be an underdog in the competition? Because there's a few decent looking teams that I think people might not have a punt on in this season's Champions League.
Who's going first?
Go on, you can go first.
I don't know, because the thing is, you say the underdogs, but unfortunately, I don't think you can have a Champions League, and I don't think you're really going to see any major underdogs. In the underdogs, you would class as the big teams that just don't do much. So you could go for maybe an Ajax. It's a tough one to go with. I'm just going to have a look. You know what? I'm going to go Atalanta. They got a big win last night. They did extremely well last year, and I'm hoping they can sort of use that momentum this year. It's going to be obviously a lot harder and everything, but I like the way they play. They got a good win last night. Atalanta, I'll go for.
Got a very good team on paper. Atalanta, as you said, a great performance last night and a great performance last season in their first ever Champions League campaign. They're backing it once again, and I think there'll be a lot of people who will maybe have a punt on them this season to do quite well once again. Kieran L, which team are you kind of looking at and thinking they could go far in this competition?
I think it depends on a lot. The cards fall in the right way for a few teams, because if you get in the group of death and you're a pot 3, pot 4 team, usually, unfortunately, we look at Inter Milan last year. I would have had them as dark horses last year, but they got knocked out in the group stage because of just how the cards fell. So they need an easier group, but I'm going to back my boys, well, not my boys, but Borussia Mönchengladbach I'm going to back them all the way to make it to the knockout stage. I don't know how further they'll get than that, but getting out of the group still is a good result for a team from pot 4.
It'd be very good indeed. Gladbach, a fantastic Bundesliga side, just got into the Champions League courtesy of the final day, competing against Bayer Leverkusen for that last spot, of course, and they did make it in the Champions League. And congratulations to them, because they've got a very good side on paper, and who knows what's going to happen with them. Of course, there's one more person to ask this question to. Will, who do you think is going to be an underdog this season?
I'm going to go with the debutants, Stad Ren. I think they're a team that are in pot 4, right? And I've got to be honest, being a Liverpool fan, they're the team I don't want from pot 4. Because I know that in pot 2 you've obviously got Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and in pot 3 you've got teams like Atlanta and Lazio. But a team that I don't want in pot 4 is Stade Rennes, because I think they're in fantastic form, obviously the top of Ligue 1 at the moment. Had a really good season last year. They've got some really good young talents. I think that they could be a team that not many people know about. Well, obviously not in terms of fans, but I mean teams. They don't have a lot of intel on them really, because they are a new team to the Champions League. I think they could come in and shock people with how they play. And I think they're definitely a team, like I said, that I don't want in pot 4 in the same group as Liverpool.
Well, they've started off very good in Liga this season, doing quite well towards the top end of the table. Could they maybe be one of the shock candidates? That's the question on my mind right now. Of course, put in the chat as always. Who do you think is going to be an underdog this season? Be interested to see your thoughts and opinions. Of course, if you are new to the stream, as always, do leave a like and a subscription. It's very greatly appreciated. Seeing good luck in the chat, saying Ajax, of course, agreeing that Ajax last season they struggled in the Champions League, got knocked out, then went into the Europa League, and then got knocked out by Getafe. So a bit of a disappointing season for Ajax. But once again, let's have a quick scout through the pot, see some of the other teams maybe people haven't really acknowledged yet in this competition. Let me take my camera off once again. So you can see right now, in terms of the teams in pot 1, we've got Bayern Munich, of course, the Champions League winners. Just a fantastic side on paper. They seem to be doing very well once again this season, as you would expect them to do. Real Madrid, of course, they won the treble in terms of the Champions League not too long ago. Bayern Munich, of course, taking that mantle, and Liverpool too. A good question, actually. Liverpool being in pot 1 as well, Will. How do you think they're going to do this season in the Champions League? Because it was a little bit frustrating when they were knocked out against Atletico Madrid last year.
Yeah, I think we could definitely have a better campaign than we did last season. Obviously, coming in as the winners, there's always going to be big pressure on you. But the way we got knocked out of last year's competition was very frustrating. We had Adrian in net when that probably wouldn't have happened, barring a crazy injury to Alisson. And a game that, at home against Atletico, we took the lead in. We eventually went, obviously, to extra time because it was 1 on aggregate. We should have absolutely smashed them. And the goals just weren't going in that day, and it was very, very frustrating. But I think this year we'll definitely have a bounce-back campaign. In the window, we've made our squad stronger. We've got more depth. We can rotate better. We don't have to rotate one of the front three and worry about if it's too big of a step down. For example, like to Origi or Minamino. I think Jota can come in and supply depth. Thiago's going to be a revelation in the midfield, in my opinion. So I think we're definitely going to have a better campaign, and hopefully it starts with a nice group. I don't like to say, I want an easy group, because if you want to win the competition, you've got to beat the best teams anyway. But an easier group is definitely, it makes it easier later in the tournament.
Absolutely. Apologies about any slight lag there. Just had to quickly change over a few things. Florian Enoch has put, hello from Romania, and all the best for City, United, Chelsea, and especially for Liverpool today. I wonder who he might support. Hasib has put Barcelona versus PSG. Is a possibility, of course, which we'll run through the rules in a little moment's time. And Chris has put as well, I agree with Will, Stade Rennes, but they can cope with Liga and Champions League at the same time. So there's a couple of comments, and of course, put your comments throughout the show. We've got 20 minutes until the draw takes place, so it's always nice to see the different views and opinions of everybody across the world in terms of the Champions League. Still looking at pot 1 right now. PSG, of course, got to the final last season. They'll be a little bit disappointed with themselves that they didn't go on to win it, but of course, Bayern Munich being such an incredible side, I think a lot of people expected them to win it as well. And then two other smaller teams in there, Zenit, the Russian champions, and Porto, the Portuguese champions, making it in. So a nice set of two teams that I think a lot of the teams in pot 2 and 3 will be hoping they are put in the same group with. Let's move on to pot 2. Let's have a quick scout through here once again. Barcelona, of course, last season they struggled massively, not in the Champions League necessarily speaking, until they hit Bayern Munich, of course, with that 8-2 win for the German champions. How important is it this season for Barcelona to get a good run in the Champions League? Because time and time again, they've been knocked out from surprise candidates, the likes of Roma. The 8-2 win against Bayern was still a shock to many in terms of the scoreline. They've got to surely win it again soon.
what a comeback story it'd be if a year after arguably the most embarrassing defeat in the club's history, illustrious history, may I add to that as well. And what a amazing story it'd be if the year after they dispatch everyone on their way to another Champions League. Messi's always said that's what he wanted. I think he said it when Liverpool shocked them and won 4-0. I remember he picked up my phone at the Nou Camp and said we'll bring a Champions League back. Still yet to do it. But if they win the Champions League, does that turn the Messi situation on its head? And suddenly he's like, I might fancy staying after all. So there's a lot riding on this campaign for Barcelona. Is it their year? I just see stronger and more tighter teams out there that I trust more than Barcelona. But if they do, what a story.
Well, we expect them to make a couple more of transfers as well over the next couple of days. They've lost a couple of their big stars. In fact, one of their big stars is also in this pot as well, Atletico Madrid. A fantastic start in the Liga with the first match day. Not as good in their second game against Huesca with a 0-0 draw. But in the Champions League, they've finally got the position I think that many people have said they've struggled in the last couple of years, and that's an attacker in the form of Luis Suarez. How important do you think this season is, not just for Barcelona, but for Atletico Madrid? Because they've got a very good side on paper, and you'd think they'd be much stronger than they have in the last couple of years.
They've added, like what you said, they needed, but they've always had strikers. I think bringing Suarez in as that star man, the man that you can sort of trust a lot more. I don't think you could really trust Costa and Morata as much as you will Suarez. I think it's for them. Just go under the radar. Don't get these huge wins. Just get these nice and simple wins and just chain them up. And eventually they might look at Guavan like, look at Atletico, they've been beaten. They've picked up some nice little wins that you haven't noticed. They're solid defensively, we know that. And maybe just go under the radar a bit.
They might have to.
Well, it's be like, well,
I was just going to say they might have to. They are a very gritty team in terms of performances. We know them for, always trying to grind out 1-0, 2-0 wins. But we know that on the day, if they turn up and be at their very best, they can dominate teams. I know, of course, it was a 6-1 win against a smaller division side, but they have that firepower up top, and whether it can come in handy in the Champions League, we'll have to find out in the next couple of weeks.
well, I was going to say,
Go on.
No, sorry. I was going to say, going back to Rowan's point as well, I do agree with him, but that the Suarez signing will make a big impact, because I don't know about you, but I thought when in last season's competition, Atletico Madrid was solid defensively. They knew they had a really good, back four, and the midfield knew what job what job it had to do. But I think what they lacked was like a presence up front, and they didn't really trust the people up front, to get the job done. But I think with João Felix having a year under his belt in Atletico, I think he can work well off Suarez, like both up front together, just add a bit more of a presence to Atletico, because I think they do rely on that defence a bit too much, and then try and scrape a goal from like a corner or a set piece. I think with having Suarez up front, I think it adds more firepower, which is definitely what they needed.
Are you in the same boat, Kieran?
They're just a strange team for me. Like, no one ever picks them to win the tournament, but every time they get drawn against them, go, oh, that's a tough game. It's weird because no one ever thinks they're going to go that next step, even though they have been in 2 finals, I think. Or maybe just the one against Real Madrid, I'm not quite sure. But for me, I think Suarez is a great addition. I agree with, I think we were talking about this the other day. If there's anyone João Felix wants to learn off, it's Luis Suarez, who's one of the best number 9s of this generation that we've had. So it'll do wonders for his career as well. And hopefully it just brings a new life to Atletico Madrid. And maybe they could be dark horses, possibly.
You never know. It'll be an interesting shout to see how they do in the competition with a bit of a better attack. Just look at the comments right now. Emmanuel's put, what time does it start? It should start in about 13 minutes' time. The timer on the top right-hand corner is when it should be 4 o'clock, and the draw should start, fingers crossed. Usually they go through the rules and things like that, so it does kind of take an extra 10 or 15 minutes. Alexa's in the stream. Welcome, Alexa. Hope you're all good, pal. He's talked about pot 3, which we're going to come on to in a little bit, and I'll bring that comment back up very shortly. Chris has put Salzburg were unlucky to be knocked out last season. Benaldo's put, I think Reims and Marseille will be underestimated, which I think are in pot 3 and 4 as well. So the rest of pot 2, you can see both the Manchester clubs, Manchester City and Manchester United, who are back in the Champions League, of course. A lot of pressure on them to do quite well this season in the competition. We have the semi-finalists of the Europa League, Shakhtar Donetsk. I think they surprised a lot of people last season with how well they did in the Europa League, but can they continue that form on into the Champions League? That's going to be a question within itself. And then a couple of the teams on the side, Dortmund as well, knocked out by PSG, made the final last season. Chelsea, who were knocked out by Bayern Munich as well, quite comfortably, you've got to admit. And Ajax, who were in the same group as Chelsea, very disappointed last season. You would expect them to do a lot better this season. We're now going to move on to pot 3, and I'm going to bring up Alexa's point. He said, not sure any of the pot 3 teams are going to be easy for the top sides. Very, very good teams. And in pot 3, we've got Dynamo Kiev, who came through last night in the playoff fixtures, did very well. Fair play to them. FC Salzburg, they came through last night as well. Good win against Maccabi Tel Aviv. RB Leipzig, they made the semi-finals. And then there's 3 Italian teams, which I'd like to bring up. We talked about Atalanta a minute ago in terms of them potentially being an underdog side. Inter Milan and Lazio. More Inter Milan, of course, being in pot 3, I think surprised quite a lot of people with, how big they are as a side naturally. Antonio Conte has had a lot of transfer business to go through in these last couple of weeks, and it looks like they're going to be bringing in some more players. How important is it for Inter Milan to go on a run in this competition? Because you've got to say, that it's hard to say it was disappointing last season with how the group was for them. They had Dortmund and Barcelona, but there will be a lot of eyes from fans and obviously members of the board that will probably be looking towards trying to push the Champions League as well.
Well, they're the pot 3 team you want to avoid. Let's be honest, we're looking at them all, and they are all good teams, and they'll all cause lots of problems. I think, Alexa made that point, but they are the big fish in a relatively medium-sized pond. So, for me, they have to do well, because last year they could have gone on a run in the Champions League had it not been for that really tough group. If they get another tough group again, they've got to fancy their chances, because they are just getting better year on year. It's another year under Antonio Conte. So hopefully they'll learn a bit more and be used to his system. Got rid of a few of the older players in the likes of, Godin, so that's a lot of experience leaving the team. But they brought in Vidal and Nainggolan, so a lot of steel in the midfield, which we always talked about their weakest area. Maybe it is the year that Inter Milan return to their past glories and make it to the latter stage. Do I think they're going to win it? No. But do I think they're a quarter-final, biggest push semi-final team? Yeah, I think they are.
I mean, they've got to push for it, as you've said there, at least try not necessarily to win it, but to go a little bit further than they did last season, although, as I said, give them a little bit of credit with how tough the draw was. And then the other sides, the other 2 teams left in pot 3, Olympiacos, who surprised a lot of people in the Europa League last season against Arsenal, and FC Krasnodar, who came through last night in a very tough fixture against PAOK, which of course we watched live on stream yesterday, me and Rowan. And then finally, pot 4, we've got about 10 minutes to go until the draw does properly start. There's still a hell of a lot of tough teams in pot 4. We've got the likes of Ferencváros, who I think surprised a lot of people coming through into the Champions League group stages. Stad Rennes, which we talked about earlier as being a potential underdog candidate. Midtjylland, unfortunately, don't want to bring it up, Rowan, again, but a 4-0 win against Slavia Prague yesterday. I'll try and not bring it up anymore. Istanbul Basaksehir from the Turkish league. And then a couple of other tough sides in here. Gladbach and Marseille. Now, Marseille, you could say they've been a sleeping giant of Ligue 1 over the last couple of years, managed under Andre Villas-Boas. Could they be a tough side to come up against? Because they've got some very good players on the team, the likes of Dario Benedetto, Morgan Sanson, Kevin Strootman, to name a few of their top stars, Tau Van as well, another very good winger on his day. I think there's a few teams, I don't know if you guys would agree, that you don't really want in pot 4 either.
I think there's a lot of teams in there where I don't think they'll get out of the group, but they will challenge some of the teams who will go through. There's solid 3 teams, your Gladbach, your Marseille, I think your Stade Rennes as well. I just wanted to quickly say about Midtjylland and Ferencváros, don't rule them out, because regardless of the winning, they showed so much heart. Obviously, Ferencváros not qualifying since the 90s, and Midtjylland showed so much heart in that game to come back from 1-0 down to win 4-1. The passion they showed, the aggressiveness, the not stopping, is something that could really play to the favour in the Champions League if they are in a group with a tough tie where these big teams will maybe play a weaker side, maybe will take their foot off the pedal a little bit just because they know it as a weaker side.
And that's the thing. I think there is a lot of these smaller teams, which I completely agree with you, Rowan, which in the past, teams do kind of think they're going to be easy to come up against, and they've been very, very hard to play. And I think one of those teams could certainly be Midtjylland. It was a great performance for them last night, and even Ferencvaros, they've had to battle their way through to get into the group stages. So they're going to try their very best when it comes to the competition. It's just a case, of course, of who they come up against. And then the two other teams in Pot 4, Club Brugge and Lokomotiv Moscow. So we've got a lot of very good teams in the draw. And that is all of the pots for now. So the question to ask you boys, before the draw starts in about 6 minutes' time, hopefully it doesn't lag too much here with cameras back on, who would you like to see face who in the group stages?
My perfect group is going to be Bayern, City, Inter, Marseille. I think that's one of the best groups in terms of each one from pot as a competitive group. Just a group that I'd love to see, because I think any team could go through. It's Porto, Shakhtar, Krasnodar, and Ferencvaros.
It's a very good draw on paper if that happens, of course. Will, who would you like to see face who?
Well, obviously, being a Liverpool fan, it's very easy for me to say I like easier teams. But obviously, we're in pot 1, so we being pot 1, I think a pot 2 team that I want to face, right? I want to face Atletico Madrid. I want to get revenge on them. I want to show that game was a complete fluke, because it was. Alisson will be in goal this time, so we won't be conceding stupid goals. But I want Atletico Madrid. I want to get some revenge on them. I think it's a psychological thing with Liverpool. I think they need to face another team to get over them. Pot 3, I'm looking at the teams here. Lazio, I think, is a team I'd like to see Liverpool face. Not been in the competition for a while. I'd like to see them face Lazio. And then in pot 4, why not give us the Hungarians, Ferencvaros?
I mean, Ferencvaros, it'll be interesting. In fact, we've got somebody we know, which is a Ferencvaros fan. So I think, to be fair, they'll just be delighted no matter what happens today in terms of the draw and who they face. Of course, Kieran, who would you like to see face who in the Champions League group stages?
If I'm looking at my dream group, I think I'm taking PSG from pot 1. Because they're obviously, it could be known as the Paris Saint-Germain revenge tour itself after getting all the way to the final, but not quite getting over that final hurdle. Then in pot 2, I'm taking Chelsea, because for me, one of the weaker teams in pot 2, after what we've seen so far, but they have invested a lot of money in improving that team. I mean, sadly, we could also have them face Leipzig, but that's not the team I'm picking, but Timo Werner back up against his former team would be an absolute brilliant storyline. But from pot 3, instead of Werner facing his former team, I'm taking Antonio Conte and Inter Milan to face his former team that rushed him out of Chelsea. So in that pot, so it'd be PSG, Chelsea, Inter Milan, and just the best team from pot 4 in my opinion, Borussia Mönchengladbach. That'd be my dream group because of all the storylines.
I mean, this is what makes it so special. You'll be able to see on the screen right now a slideshow of all the pots going through right now. There are so many good teams in all of the pots that we could see some very tough groups compared to previous years. The likes of Marseille and Gladbach being in pot 4 is something I don't think many people would have expected. And of course, if you are watching the stream right now, do put your thoughts and opinions throughout the draw. Tell us in the chat right now who you want to see come up against each other in the draw. I've just seen Florin has put his predictions for every group. He's put, for one of the groups, he thinks Porto, Chelsea, Krasnodar, Ferencvaros, which would be a very good draw for Chelsea. Zenit, City, Lazio, Midtjylland, which would be a very good draw for Man City, I think, and Lazio to a certain extent. Sevilla, United, Kiev, and Istanbul Basaksehir here. And then I think the group of death is put Liverpool, Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan, and Gladbach, which is exactly what I was going to go for in terms of what I think would be my group of death, because it would be great to see Liverpool come up against Atletico Madrid once again, because it's not a very different Atletico Madrid side, but it's got a little bit better than last season. And then Inter Milan and Gladbach, just two very good sides in their respective leagues anyway, and it'd just be good fun to see 4 very solid teams in their league all come up against each other. So we've got 2.5 minutes until the draw is technically going to officially start. Now, what tends to usually happen with the opening of the ceremony in terms of the group stages is they do a couple of awards on the side. So what will happen is the first pot will probably be drawn. Then there will be a section which they will talk about award ceremony. It might be manager of the year and things like that. So there will be a little bit of a break in between compared to the knockout stages where they just tend to draw the balls out nice and quick and it's all done within the space of 10 minutes. So it will be a little bit longer than usual. But it'd be great to hear your predictions in the chat for what you think is going to happen in this Champions League group stage draw. And if you've enjoyed the stream so far, once again, do leave a like and a subscription. It's very greatly appreciated. We have a lot of sporting content on this channel, not just footballing content either, but we've got podcasts, we do football watch-alongs, we've got F1 watch-alongs, an NFL podcast, tier lists, you name it, we've got it on the channel. So do subscribe. It'd be very greatly appreciated. 1 million subscribers with no post. He's put Barca Juve on same group. Will be a feast to watch. Who knows what is going to happen. So before the draw does start, it is very important to just have a quick gander through the rules for today's draw. So usually Claudio Ranieri will come out on the screen and talk for 10 or 15 minutes about the draw. I'm going to do it now to make life 100 times easier for everybody. So you can see on the screen right now the draw procedure. No teams can play a club from their own league. And this is another decision that's been made in the last couple of years as well. Based on decisions by the UEFA committee, no clubs from Russia and Ukraine cannot be drawn in the same group. So if you have hopes of seeing maybe Zenit against Shakhtar, unfortunately, that is not going to happen until the knockout stages if the teams do get through. So, of course, we aren't going to see any Premier League sides come up against each other until the knockout stages, as it usually is. In the case of associations with 2 or more representatives, clubs will be paired in order to split their matches between Tuesday and Wednesday. So in the example of what UEFA has given, Liverpool and Manchester United have been put together, as have Chelsea and Manchester City. And the way that this is going to work, if a paired club is drawn, so for example, if Liverpool get drawn in groups A, B, C or D, the other paired club, which in their situation will be Manchester United, once drawn, they'll be automatically assigned to one of groups E, F, G or H. Confusing, I know, but once the draw gets into place, you'll understand how the system works. So once again, just looking down right now in terms of the groups, Liverpool and Man United are drawn together, as are Chelsea and Man City. So if you can't understand it, if Chelsea get drawn in groups A, B, C or D, then Manchester City will go in E, F, G or H. And then the key dates for the rest of the competition in terms of the Champions League itself. The first match day of the group stage is on the 20th to the 21st of October, so we've only got 19 days left to wait. The second match day is a week afterwards, on the 27th to the 28th of October. Match day 3 is on the 3rd to the 4th of November, so it's a week afterwards once again. Then there's a little break in between. Match day 4 comes on the 24th to the 25th of November. Match day 5 is then a week afterwards, on the 1st to the 2nd of December, with the final match day being on match day number 6, 8th to the 9th of December. So, of course, with the competition starting a little bit later than usual, so does the competitions finished. There's a lot of people in here right now, 46 people watching. If you are watching the stream ahead of the group stage draw, tell us in the chat who would you like to see face off against who. But in terms of the draw, they're just getting ready to start it. It'd be nice to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments. As for now, I'm going to ask the boys, while we wait for a little bit for these rules and procedures to be confirmed before they do get the balls rolling. Who do you think is going to win the competition? Why not ask early?
Bayern.
Bayern Munich?
Yeah.
Us.
Liverpool?
Oh, I backed him last year, and I'm backing him again. Buffon's got to get a Champions League at some point because he's not retiring until he gets one. It's Juventus I'm going to put down to win the whole thing.
Buffon. Well, is he going to be lifting the Champions League trophy at the end of the season? We'll have to find out. But just seeing right now on the screen, the draw is about to take place in a moment. If you are new, as always, do leave a like and a subscription. It's very greatly appreciated. There's a lot of you in here right now. You will see just on your screens the groups which have been organised. As the draw goes along, that will change. So you'll see each team go into their allotted category. Of course, the way that the draw will work for anybody who's just joined the stream, pot 1 will be drawn out first. Then there'll be a slight break for the award ceremony. Then pot 2, then another award. Pot 3, another award, vice versa. It continues on. So they're just going through the teams right now. in terms of last season's Champions League. It was a thrilling competition, the likes of Atalanta and Lyon making it far in the competition. We talked about our teams that we think this season might go a little bit further. But I'm going to ask Will here, because of course he is a Liverpool fan and he's kind of one of the only ones here that can really speak about his team being in the Champions League. Maybe one day Hull, Rotherham and Oldham will get there. But you said you think that Liverpool might win it. How far do you think they can go?
Well, if you just look at the experience that we have in the squad, we've already won one. We've added quality to that. We've added experienced players to that. Thiago won it last season. How many times do you see a player that's won the Champions League leave to join another team? Jota's played obviously in the Europa League with Wolves. I think we can go all the way without a doubt. It's just a matter of avoiding injuries and just playing up to the level that we know we can do. I mean, Klopp. The one thing that Klopp always does is he makes sure the squad has got the right mentality for every single game. He doesn't make the team look down on anybody. So I think we're going to come into this tournament. We got knocked out in the round of 16. It was a bit of a terrible campaign for us last season in the Champions League. We're coming back with a lot more fire in his bellies, and I think we can definitely go all the way if we want to.
Yeah, but they're not unbeatable because we saw Hoffenheim dispatch of them of the weekend and it wasn't even close. I mean, we watched that game on the side and Bayern Munich was sloppy. Yes, they rotated, but Munsterberg, and Andre Kramaric, and there's rumours that they're going to buy him, as Will said. If you can't beat him, buy him. So you might as well. But they are beatable on the day, and they've showed a few frailties. Because last year they just looked like a machine that was never going to stop. So finally, maybe there's a chink in their armour after all. So I think they can obviously win it. They're probably the favourites, but I don't put it past any team in that upper echelon to beat them in a two-leg tie, because that obviously returns this year, which is an interesting sort of aspect.
Apologies about that, by the way. The volume went. Somebody gave a heads up in the chat. Very greatly appreciated. I don't know why it went there for a second, but it's back now. We're all good. Looking at a few of the other sides as well, PSG, they'll be very hungry to try and get the Champions League in their hands. Last season, losing to Bayern Munich. There's a lot of pressure on Thomas Tuchel because we know they're a club in the last couple of years that have been so desperate to win the Champions League, and as time goes on, you'd expect that pressure to continue to rise.
But that was such a massive step for PSG. Like, they've come so far in that one season. I obviously don't think the owners will take it that way, but we will as fans, They've come so far from the team that bottled every big lead they had in numerous seasons back-to-back. They showed steel against Borussia Dortmund in the two-legged tie. They showed heart against Atalanta when they looked dead and buried with 90 minutes played. And they were not outclassed in the final by the best team in Europe. So there's lots of positives, but is that enough for the PSG board? We'll soon know, of course. So I think last year was a massive step, though, for Paris Saint-Germain, and hopefully they're up there for a while.
I do think the one problem that they do have is that the league, they've run away with it. And I'm glad that this year didn't happen, but I think there's always complacency where they piss the league. Put it easily, they dominate it, yet when they come to Champions League they don't, and surely that's going to have a mental fit like, what we can do in the league, why can't we do in the Champions League? And I'm glad that they had the performance they did last year, because it means you can come into this saying, well, we can do it in the Champions League now, build on that.
It's very true.
I think PSG. Go on.
No, go for your point.
No, I was just going to say that I think like PSG getting to the final, it's definitely going to help the mentality, and it's going to want them. It's going to make them want to go a step further. But I think with PSG as well, I think when you look at the team, they've got a good mix of like veterans that have been there and done it, but also youngsters. I mean, obviously, you look at Mbappe, he's a youngster, but he's already won a World Cup. He's already won multiple titles in his career, but the PSG team will be more hungry this year, and they'll be thinking, look, we did it, we managed to get to the final last year. Why can't we go one step further this year?
Absolutely, and I think there'll be a lot of those big clubs who have got the same aspirations, the likes of maybe Inter Milan and teams like Atletico Madrid who want to go that extra step further than they did last season. So they're just going through some of the procedures that have taken place, of course, with COVID-19 affecting a large base of not just football, but the Champions League football as well. They're just going through kind of talking about COVID-19 and things like that. But the good news for this season in terms of the Champions League is that it is back to the usual system that I think many people were worried was going to kind of change up permanently. So in terms of the knockout stages, it will be back to the usual two-legged fixtures with away goals and things like that, not the single-leg knockouts of last season, which I think is a positive to many, a negative to some. It was a major talking point when the Champions League took place. But the draw should be starting in a few minutes. As I said, they'd like to pad it out as if it's a big, massive TV show. So we will be underway with it in about 5 minutes, I would assume. But once again, for any of you that have just joined the stream late on, while we are waiting for the draw to start, because it will eventually, of course, we've still got to wait for Claudio Ranieri to come out and talk bollocks for about 10 minutes. Let's go through the pots one more time, just so you guys can see who is in the draw today for anybody that has joined in the last couple of minutes. So, pot 1, we've got the holders, Bayern Munich. We've got Real Madrid, Juventus, the Russian champions Zenit, the, of course, Europa League champions Sevilla, which we haven't talked about, Liverpool, Paris Saint-Germain, the finalists, and FC Porto. So that is pot 1, of course. Pot 2, Barcelona, Manchester City, Shakhtar Donetsk, Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Manchester United, Dortmund, and Ajax. Pot 3 features Dinamo Kiev, FC Salzburg, RB Leipzig, Inter Milan, Olympiacos, Lazio, Krasnodar, and Atalanta. It's a very Italian-heavy pot 3 right now in there. And then, of course, pot 4, you've got Lokomotiv Moscow, Marseille, Club Brugge, Gladbach, Istanbul Basaksehir, Midtjylland, Stade Rennes, and of course Ferencvaros. So they are all of the pots. What they're currently doing right now is they're giving out the first award of the day to Didier Drogba. I think it's one of the honorary rewards which they're giving out throughout the group stage draw. And Slim Virus has put Arsenal till eternity. They'll be back in the Champions League soon. But one team we didn't actually talk about, Sevilla, won the Europa League last season, a fantastic win against Inter Milan. How far do you think they could go in this competition? Because they've got a very good side on paper, and as me and Rome watched in the Super Cup, they gave Bayern a bloody good game.
I'm a big fan of Sevilla. They're obviously, in that final, they're obviously missing Region, but Esquerdo didn't actually have that bad of a game. Again, for them, it's just you play extremely well in the Europa League. Can you do it on the Champions League? And I think if they can get through the group, if they get a relatively mediocre group stage, a half decent one, get through that, I think we could maybe see them get to the quarters, possibly even the semis. It's all to do with whether they can use the momentum of the Europa League.
Does anyone think maybe they might go back to the Europa League again and go win it again? You know, maybe twice in a row, get knocked out of the Champions League. I mean, they're a good team on paper, but are they good enough against some of Europe's elite?
I think it depends on the group, really, who they get in the group. But they know how to win in the Europa League. They just know how to win big European games, you know, more specifically in the Europa League. But they did also beat United. I know Kieran will have to bring that up, but they did also beat Man United in the Champions League and got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League where they eventually lost. But they're a team that everybody knows their place. They're well coached. But I do think it depends on the group. I think if they get two big guns in, obviously, in pot 1 and pot 2, which is very likely to happen because that's where the big teams are, I think it could be tough for them, definitely. And
you've brought us onto a very good point, actually. KD might be glad he's not here right now because of that point, but he's also going to be a little bit nervous because, as KD being a Manchester United fan, they're back in the Champions League, and you know they are a big, major historical club, and there'll be a lot of fans who will be very nervous for them in terms of who they're going to get. But it's got to be so crucial for Manchester City Manchester United even to have a very, very good run, because there's a lot of fan demand right now for them to not just be in the Champions League, but to compete for it.
They're a mile off competing for the Champions League. In my opinion, anyway. I don't know about anyone else. They are nowhere. They barely competed against Brighton on the weekend. So God help if they come up against Bayern Munich or Juventus. But it's like we talked about PSG getting to the final. It was a massive step for Man United to get back into the Champions League. It'll be the same when Arsenal finally come back into the Champions League. This is a few years away since their magical night in Paris. So they have to put up a good showing for themselves. I don't think they're going to win it. I really don't. But if it's a bit, I don't know about you other guys, but for most of the teams, sometimes we don't talk about them winning it. We talk about getting to the quarters and semis as a good run for that team. But when does that become enough when you're one of the world's biggest teams? And that's where the conundrum lies, I think.
The problem is they haven't looked convincing. 3-1 loss to Crystal Palace, you don't count the EFL Cup. A 3-2 loss to Brighton, where you got the penalty after the full-time whistle, and then obviously the EFL Cup. That's one loss and then one game that you shouldn't have won. I think they're going to really struggle if they get either a tough group or even a mediocre group. I do think they'll struggle, in my opinion.
It's going to be an interesting one, because Manchester United has said they haven't been in for a little while. They had that very famous night against PSG where they won towards the end, but of course the demand is so massive right now for them to really do something good in this competition. It's going to be so important for Ole to impress the fans. But another manager, I think, who needs to impress a little bit. They lost 5-2 at the weekend. Manchester City got knocked out by Lyon in the semi-finals. Be very, very disappointed in terms of how they were knocked out in that game. They're another club that has to go for it this season. What do you think about Manchester City, boys?
They've got to win it. They've got to get past the quarterfinals first, because there is so much pressure on Pep. We've seen him. He wins his Energy Drink Cup every single year in February. Competes for the league every year, apart from last year. But he has to win a Champions League with Manchester City, because when Manchester City brought him in, that was the main goal. Because the one thing City have never done is win in Europe. But when you bring in a manager like Pep Guardiola, you're expected to win in Europe. And if he can't get them to at least the final this year, I'd see it as another massive failure of a season for Man City.
Completely agree. You can't spend 400 million on defenders and not get past a quarter final. It's quite embarrassing, to be honest. And the amount of money that clubs spend every year because they're not successful in Europe, so they just throw money until eventually it'll fix itself, is what their plan is. And it's always their plan. And I'm glad that it's not working, to be honest with you. So I think they have to win it, because if any other manager, you look at PSG, you look at Juventus, these are big clubs. Man City aren't a big club. They're just a financially well-off club. Their big managers with big teams will have been gone by now if they hadn't won this many Champions Leagues. We saw it with Sarri. He won the league and got sacked. So
and the Europa League. Well, no, he won it with Chelsea and got sacked, didn't he?
Yeah. So I don't know. They've got to. We said this last year though. It's got to be their year to get close, if not win it.
I mean, the pressure is going to be on, and to just give you a quick rundown for those of you that aren't watching the draw right now and are kind of looking at us to kind of guide you through it, the draw hasn't started yet. It kind of feels like This Is Your Life Chelsea edition, as in they're bringing out all the former Chelsea players. We've got Didier Drogba, as I said a moment ago, has won an award tonight, and then Florent Malouda just seems to have appeared out of nowhere. I hope that these are going to be the two guys that are pulling out the balls, because still Claudio Ranieri hasn't come out yet to talk through the rules, which once again I'll go over in a minute for those of you that have just joined last minute for the stream. Bernaldo, thank you very much for putting in the chat about subscribing. Very greatly appreciate it. I don't want to go on too much about it, but the good news is these are the two people that are going to be drawing out the balls. The question is, where is Mr. Claudio Ranieri? Because he's got to talk through the rules.
Is the women's being drawn first?
No.
They had the women on the background.
Oh, are we doing the women's draw as well?
I think so.
Oh, well, God. It did say at 4 o'clock it was supposed to start. I mean, if they're doing the women's draw as well, we'll cover the women's draw as we go along, but we'll have to find out here, because it has been a little bit of a shambles in terms of the actual draw procedure itself. It was supposed to be on at midday, then it was changed to the afternoon, and I think we might be alright, Rome, because I've just thought in my head, the awards that they're giving out women's awards as well, I think. So that could be why. But I think they might be giving out another award here, which we are here for the draw, not for a award ceremony. How annoying is it? Because obviously we've done a lot of these draws before. It's so frustrating, isn't it, when kind of a 10-minute procedure lasts an hour because they're just doing different things on the side.
You just milk it. I suppose they just milk it. They've been live for 35 minutes now, and they haven't even really. Well, they've only just gone by the drawing station.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've still not had Claudio Ranieri come out to talk through the rules yet. And usually, if it was a knockout stage draw, as I said before, it'd be kind of over and done with now. You talk through the rules, you draw the teams out, and that's it. But I think they've got a couple of awards they're giving out, as I said, in terms of the Champions League of last season, which will be interesting to see who wins, of course. I think most people expect Bayern Munich players and the manager to win it. If not, be very surprised if that doesn't happen. But they are giving out the first award here, which is goalkeeper of the season. And as you would expect, it's Manuel Neuer. What a fantastic goalkeeper he's been, you know. Kind of very similar to a few of the other Bayern Munich players, like Boateng and Muller. Wasn't as good in the last couple of years, but he really seems to have got back to his best now.
Yeah. He's unbelievable, isn't he?
I mean, the save he made last night in the Super Cup was exceptional.
I think it's that point where he went through, I don't want to say a lull, but I know me being one of the people, and he's proven me wrong, was saying, not that he was finished, but, you know, Ter Stegen should be starting for Germany. How's he not made? And Ter Stegen's brilliant, don't get me wrong, but Manuel Neuer has had a real resurgence, I feel, of recent years, and maybe that's come with Bayern Munich's success. And it's easy to look good in a successful team. I think we've seen that plenty of times with plenty of players. But, you know, I think he's just really proven himself right. As we're getting women's awards as well. You are right, Josh.
Yeah, they're getting the women's awards in as well tonight, which they're just talking to the goalkeeper of the season. Of course, can't be there because of COVID, just saying how proud she is about it. Fair play, of course. It's a prestigious reward for any player, women's or men's. Bernalda's put Ranieri's pulling the Dyer. Maybe he's just having a very long toilet break, you don't know. And Alexa's put, am I going to get smashed for saying that nobody honestly cares about the women's awards? I care about women's international football tremendously, but not club football. Tell us in the chat, do you agree with that? Do you disagree? You'll have to tell us.
If I speak, I'm in trouble. I actually quite enjoy it. It is fun. We all know the quality isn't as good, but probably for women's football, the quality is good, if you know what I mean. That makes sense.
And
I
get what you mean. He's not being harsh to women's football because it is going to be of a lower end because it's still in development. Do you know what I mean? There are exceptional plays in there, but women's football is developing as time goes on. So I get what you mean. If that's the point you're going down, of course.
I'm with Alexa, though. I watched the Women's World Cup and I thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest with you. I know that's obviously what kind of got people... That was kind of, I feel, the Kickstarter for, like, putting them on an equal playing field. There's absolutely no problems with having both sets of awards. Annoyingly, I'd rather not have it when the draw's on because it just extends it by further. However, like, you know, another night where, kind of like a Ballon d'Or ceremony, but you get the women's goalkeeper of the year, you get the men's goalkeeper of the year, and give them a bit of screen time and get fans of football to learn about these players. And that's how they're going to grow women's football, is if you kind of put them... You've just put them alongside the men as if they are level, because they are. You know, it's the sport of football, so it'll just teach younger kids, people like us. You know, we maybe never heard of that goalkeeper. Watch this interview, quite like her personality, seems like a really good player. We go and watch Lyon's next women game. You know, and that's how they're going to grow. And I think it's a good thing.
Do you know the amount of people watching this draw right now thinking, I want to see who wins the Women Awards. I mean, there might be that person out there saying, "Who's Manuel Neuer?" You know, if they're a women's football fan, you just don't know really. So I've got nothing against it really showing the awards. The only problem I have is it extends the draw, like Kieran says. But at the end of the day, it's what it is.
It is indeed. I mean, we're now 22 minutes in terms of the actual official procedure where we're still sat here and no teams have been drawn out because, of course, I assume pot 1 will come out and then they'll do another award, which obviously pot 1 tends to be nothing until you get to pot 2 when you find out who's in each group. So we might be here for about the next 2 hours, and I apologise to everybody who's watching, waiting for this draw to kick-start, because, as much as maybe some of you are just desperate to see who's facing who, we are too, and we're actually seeing Manuel Neuer, who is actually sat alongside them talking about his trophy, which is, of course, with COVID and that, there'll be some players that can and can't travel, but the draw is taking place in Switzerland, as it usually does. I don't think there is any club executives actually there, which usually there tends to be. But once again, while they kind of bang on about the rewards, which Alexis put Neuer about to flagrantly rig the draw.
Sexy Manuel Neuer, look at him.
He actually looks quite smart, his suit. Looks lovely.
Wow. It's going to be Gordon all over again.
Oh, it is indeed. That was perfectly timed, that one. But we'll quickly go through the rules once again for anybody that has just kind of joined within these last few minutes and maybe hasn't kind of seen the Champions League before and wants to know how the draw is going to work. So with the Champions League group stages, you cannot play a club from your own league. And based on the decisions by the UEFA committee, clubs from Russia and Ukraine cannot be drawn in the same group. So, as I said earlier, if you are a Zenit fan and you're hoping maybe to play off against Shakhtar, unfortunately, that can't happen until the knockout stages, which is a real shame. In case of associations with 2 or more representatives, clubs, they'll be paired in order to split their matches between Tuesday and Wednesday. So, for example, Manchester United and Liverpool have been both paired together because they are in one association. So they have to be split up to kind of decipher which teams will play on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So, for example, if Liverpool are drawn in groups A, B, C or D, then the other paired club, which in this situation will be Manchester United, they would automatically be assigned to one of the groups of E, F, G or H. So this is across the board. So, for example, PSG and Lyon, I think they're both matched together, as are Rennes and Marseille. So Bayern Dortmund, exactly. So the list goes on for all of the different leagues across European football, which will make the draw a little bit more easy to understand when it kicks in. And the fantastic news is finally we're actually getting somewhere, because Claudio Ranieri is out to talk about the rules, which is fantastic to see, because it's taken us 25 minutes to get to this, and we've been live for an hour now. Once again, key dates for the group stages. You can see on your screen right now, it starts in 19 days, so not long to wait, of course. Usually the Champions League is starting around this time, but with COVID-19 we're a little bit later. The first 3 match days will be every week, which is fantastic to see. There'll be a slight break between the 4th of November and the 24th. It'll be back match day 4 on the 24th of November, and then those final 3 match days will be week after week. So we've got consistent Champions League football at the end of October and the end of November into December, which is fantastic to see. Alexis put pretty sad that the draw is going to extend into the beginning of the Europa League playoff qualifiers, which is very true, because, of course, the Europa League draw is tomorrow, which we'll be covering that live from 11:30. We'd expect the draw to start at 12, but with how this has panned out today, expect it to start at 12 at midnight. But Claudio Ranieri is going through the rules. Hopefully we'll have this draw ready in just a moment's time. Are we ready for the draw, boys? Any teams that you're praying you get paired with, Will?
Yeah, like I said, I think I want Atletico Madrid because I want revenge on them. They're a team I definitely want in pot 2. But even pot 4, I don't know about what you think, but I think pot 4 this year, it looks a lot stronger than it has been in previous years. In previous years we've had the Maribols and the Videotons and the Ludogorets and all teams like that. But there's actually some legitimate teams in pot 4 that I think could cause problems. Like Rowan said, don't write any of the teams off because they're here for a reason. The top 32 teams in Europe.
Absolutely.
With the pot 4 teams as well, a lot of the teams of the past, you know more than anyone about Red Star Belgrade. But the importance to me would be like the fan advantage. Whether we are going to have, I don't know actually if they've cleared up. Who's going to have fans, who's not going to have fans, is anyone going to have fans, that whole thing. But do you think that hurts the likes of Ferencváros? Because again, we talked about this, Josh. I was like, Shamrock Rovers versus AC Milan. I just wish fans were there to see it. And this with Ferencváros, I just wish that fans could see it as well, but I don't know what the ruling is around that, but it could have been an advantage for them anyway.
Definitely. I mean, go on.
I was just going to say it's unfortunate, isn't it? Because, for example, Premier League sides, we know that they're not going to have fans, but then it adds that extra question: if the team is playing away from home, are they going to be allowed to travel? With the UK, probably not going to allow that anyway. But there's certain obviously areas and countries you can go to where lockdown restrictions and things like that aren't necessarily in place. To add to your point, of course.
Yeah, we're just going to say, I think the Ferencvaros, however you say it, I think their official Twitter, I think it's got 8,000 followers. So, I mean, imagine if in their home stadium, you've got someone like Real Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich coming to play in their stadium. It's a shame, like Kieran said, that the fans are probably going to miss out on that.
It's a shame, isn't it? Because there's going to be some very, very good ties that are going to be kind of picked out here in a moment. I mean, Alexis put all I can say is up the Ferencvaros, and do you know what? Give them credit. We said earlier about the Magicians of the Ferencvaros. Me and Rowan, if you've kind of a regular in the stream, you'll know last night we were watching the Champions League playoff goals that were going in terms of the matches between Slavia and Krasnodar. You've got to say, Rowan, we spoke about it last night at the end of the stream, that those playoff fixtures were absolutely entertaining to watch.
Well, that's the thing. We joke that obviously, that's an easy group, but these teams have qualified through. They've done it through grit. They've had to go through so many qualifying phases, so many qualifying games where you play nearly 100 and I can't imagine 180 minutes, possibly even more if you get an extra time penalties at the end of them. These teams will be fighting. We saw it with Slavia Praga last year. They had group death, and they were never going to have it. But they took every single team to their limits. I don't think they ever got absolutely smashed by like 4 goals plus, which you probably would have expected from these big sides.
And of course, they picked up that 0-0 draw against Barcelona as well, which it proves that, you know, some of these smaller teams, they will go out there and they might know that they're not necessarily likely to go through to the next round, but they will go in with high aspirations, high spirits, and they'll just be proud that they've made it there, of course, because for teams like Ferencvaros and Midtjylland, it's such a massive feat just to get into this section of the competition that they won't care who they come up against. They'll just be glad that they've made it here, because the TV revenue for the clubs is massive, because every game's on TV no matter what. It's such a big experience, and it was great to see last night the drama and the passion from those teams, the likes of Slavia, Midtjylland, those teams. They pushed all the way to get through into the next stage, and unfortunately, some fell at the last hurdle. But teams like Midtjylland and Krasnodar did so well to be here, and it really is delightful to see. Now, the fantastic news. Go for it, Kieran.
It's alright, because they're going back to another video package. Don't you worry about it.
Oh, another one.
And with these smaller teams, if they put in valiant performances, they may gain followings. Rowan became a Slavia Praha fan during this period of time, so. These, you never know. Midtjylland are going to double their stock with a valiant performance away at Barcelona.
Also, players get moves from this tournament.
Yeah.
Thomas Souček got a move to West Ham. Kufal has got a move to West Ham. Maybe they move to West Ham.
I mean, if I was a player right now, I'd maybe not put in a good performance in the Champions League, just so you're not moving to West Ham. Aaron, welcome to the stream, buddy. He says, what time does the draw start? Well, we thought the draw was going to start at 4 o'clock. It's now 4:30, and we're still sat here waiting for it to actually start. I mean, the good news is it should be starting in about a minute or two. The players, Drogba and Malouda, they're both out to draw the teams from pot 1. And of course, Claudio Ranieri is out as well to just talk through the rules and things like that. He's in the building, but we're going to start off with pot 1. For those of you that have just joined, pot 1 consists of these teams right now. So Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Juventus, Zenit, Sevilla, Liverpool, PSG and Porto. And the fantastic news is that the draw is getting underway. So we'll start off with our first team. I'm going to update it as we go. And the first team that is going to come out in this bloody long Champions League draw. It's taken forever to just get to the first ball. Team number 1 and going into, the group stages, Bayern Munich, the champions, as you would expect, Drogba with a nice happy smile on his face, which is lovely to see. So Bayern Munich, the first team out, and they will go into Group A. So that is the Champions League winners in Group A. So this will update as it goes. So fingers crossed now you see on the screen. Bayern Munich. Do give me a heads up if you can see it. And if not, then of course do give me a heads up as well with that. So I can quickly sort that out. But Bayern Munich, first team out. The next team out is Real Madrid. So Real Madrid, the second team out here. And they are going to go into Group B. Good start to this draw.
The draw didn't really start until we get to pot 2, doesn't it?
Not really. It's a shame, isn't it?
What isn't a shame is that if Zenit get drawn, Sexy Sardar's in pot 1. So, Asmoon's in pot 1.
So the next team out is going to be FC Porto. The Portuguese winning team. They won the Portuguese League last season. They were 7 points behind Benfica at one point. Claimed it back once again to win the title. Congratulations to them. So FC Porto are in Group C. And into Group D goes, as Dropper gets the ball out, Liverpool. So Liverpool are in Group D to start off. Of course, as Rowan said, we're not going to find out who faces who in those groups until we get into the second pots, of course. But Liverpool in Group D, which is good to see. We now move on to Groups E, so let me flip that round there. So Group E, first team out in this group is going to be Sevilla, the European champions, of the Europa League champions, of course. They go into Group E. Going to be tough, of course, to face off against Julian Lopetegui's side. And 3 more teams left here for Group F, G, and H. So we'll find out who goes into Group F here. Just get that sorted out. So Group F is going to be Zenit. Zenit St. Petersburg, of course, recently signed Dejan Lovren. As Kieran L also said, they've got Sardar Azmoun, who was actually linked to a move to Tottenham in real life not too long ago. So Zenit going to Group F, which means there's 2 balls left in the pot.
Signed Champions League winner, Lovren.
Sorry, I forgot to add that on there. And Juventus come out in Group G. They, of course, have got Cristiano Ronaldo in their side. Andrea Pirlo as well, the brand new manager. So that is Group G. And finally, of course, going into Group H to end pot number 1 is going to be PSG. So they're the first pot teams out. To quickly run through it while Claudio talks through those teams. Groups A, we've got Bayern Munich. Group B, Real Madrid. Group C, Porto. Group D, Liverpool. Group E, Sevilla. F is Zenit. G is Juventus. And H is Paris Saint-Germain. Now, unfortunately, as we expected, they are going on to the next award, which is Defender of the Year. And as we expected, the Bayern Munich contingency is going to win a large amount of these awards. And it's Joshua Kimmich who gets the reward. Well deserved.
Yeah. I mean, is he a defender, though? Because technically he's a midfielder as well.
It's a fair point.
He could be up for anything, couldn't he? He's one of them that could be up for the midfielder award.
Right back who was made at CDM.
And there's the women's award as well.
Bayern and Leon awards, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, it really is. And as you've said there, one of the other awards even has gone out to another Leon player at the back, which is expected with their Women's Champions League win.
Yeah, it's Marion Renard. I watched her play in the World Cup. I've got to admit, she had a shocking World Cup. I mean, I've got to admit, she's massive. Like, she's genuinely like 6 foot odd, right? But cannot head a ball to save her life. And unlike that promo just showed, where she would dive and heading out the box, I didn't see that in the World Cup, so I can only go off what I know.
Hasn't seen it in the Champions League though, did you, Kieran? Maybe she was.
I swear she scored a header though in the first game of the World Cup.
She did.
Yeah, she did.
She is a threat. She's a threat from corners, especially. Like, definitely Mertesacker.
6 games.
Do you know, I've got a question. I've got a question for all you. Lot, though, because obviously I'm a Liverpool fan, so my team's in the Champions League, but obviously being Hull, Rotherham, Oldham fans, what team do you want to win the tournament?
Dortmund.
Like, what team would you like to see go all the way and win it?
Dortmund, they've been my second club for ages. It's the kids that always tied me in, and then Marco Reus. He was just a player that I always loved. So yeah, Dortmund. Love to see him go all the way.
I think my guilty pleasure team, like Rowan's is Sparta Prague, it's now Zenit. Like, I'm going to support Zenit because they've got sexy Sardar up front. But if you want me to like pick a team that I want to win it with a realistic aspect, I absolutely like Atletico Madrid. I know it's going to annoy you massively, but I am I'm a massive Simeone fan. I believe he's been underrated as a coach for so long. He's up there with the best coaches in the world because he makes players. He doesn't buy. He spent 100 million on João Felix, admittedly, but he made the players that have become stars at Atletico Madrid, like Griezmann, who came from Sociedad, made him 10 times better. Godin, Jimenez, players you'd heard of but never really burst onto the scene, and he makes them burst onto the scene. So, guilty pleasure, Zenit, team alike, Atletico. Over to you, Josh.
I'm going to say, realistically, I would have actually probably said Bayern Munich last season because I do like Bayern, but this season, if I'm going to go for a guilty pleasure like Kieran, it's a tough one, isn't it? There's some bloody good teams in the group stages. I'd probably say, it's a tough one, man. I'd like to see Atalanta do quite well. I think we saw, apart from their defence, it is not the greatest defence in the world, but I'd like to see them go on another good run, and I know they probably wouldn't go on and win it, but they did so well last season. I think if they can keep that same atmosphere, they've got the new stadium as well, which means they'll actually be in a proper home ground for their fixtures, as far as I'm aware, which is good for them. So I'll pick Atalanta as a guilty pleasure. Realistically speaking, I'm not going to go Bayern Munich, because I think that will happen, but I'm going to change it up. I think we could maybe see Man City, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, but there's a few people out there who I've just heard slight frustrations. I think Manchester City, they've got to go for it, haven't they? We said earlier about the fact that there's going to be pressure on them. Yeah. They've spent a lot of money. They might still spend money with the transfer window being open for a few more days. Pep has to do it, and I think we might maybe see them in the final at the very least. But it's Man City. You never know. They tend to like to cock it up.
Yeah, I mean, completely forgot. This is the year they shouldn't have been competing in the Champions League.
Right.
They shouldn't be here. Completely forgot about that. A few envelopes under the table and they've popped up in the draw. But, yeah, they have to win it. But what a weird thing it'll be is if it's the year they're not meant to be in the tournament and they go and win the whole thing and they have to hand UEFA have to hand the trophy to them. Just a quite ironic little thing, that'd be.
It'd be a real kick in the teeth for UEFA there, wouldn't it? For the fact that City would win it in that season that they were supposed to be banned, it'd be quite funny for the City fans, of course. But if you've just joined us, welcome along to stream. For you, as always, do leave a like and a subscription. It's very greatly appreciated. The draw is taking place right now. They're just going through the Defender of the Year awards. For those of you that have missed the first pots being released, you can see right now. Group A is Bayern Munich, the Champions League winners of the last season. Group B is Real Madrid. Group C, Portuguese champions FC Porto. Group D is Liverpool. Group E, the Europa League winners Sevilla. Group F, Zenit. Group G, Juventus. And Group H is PSG. So they're the pots that have been drawn out for now. You'll be able to see on the screen in a moment the teams that are going to be drawn out in a second in pot 2. And there's a hell of a lot of good teams in this pot as well. So to be drawn out in a moment, of course. Barcelona under Ronald Koeman now. After their disappointing season with Quique Setien. Atletico Madrid, who looked very hungry at the start of the La Liga campaign, and of course brought in the likes of Luis Suarez, and potentially as well, it's looking like Lucas Torreira could be through the door in the next day or two. Manchester City, we spoke about them a moment ago. There's going to be a lot of pressure on them this season to do well, as also Manchester United, who are also in pot 2. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has got a big job on his hands if he wants Manchester United to do well in this competition. The Europa League semi-finalists of last season, Shakhtar Donetsk. Could they surprise a few teams in Europe's elite competition? We'll have to find out. Borussia Dortmund, who were knocked out by the Champions League finalists PSG. There's going to be a lot of pressure on them to do well. Is Jadon Sancho still going to be at the club at the end of it? I think he will be when the Champions League comes around. He'll be in a Dortmund shirt most likely. Chelsea, of course, they've made a lot of big signings themselves, the likes of Werner and Havertz. There will be pressure on them this season to do well in the Champions League. And then, of course, to top off the group, the pot is Ajax right now. They had a disappointing Champions League campaign and they'll be expecting to do a little bit better than they did last season. Knocked out, went into the Europa League, finishing third in the Champions League, and then were knocked out by Getafe. So that is pot 2. The question is, in terms of the teams, we see Shakhtar in there, we see Ajax, we see Dortmund. Which team in pot 2 do you think could go the furthest in this competition? Or is expected to go the furthest?
Expected.
Yeah, let's go
Sure.
down the route of expected. Is probably the best way to put it.
Expected City then. To be honest, I think you look at the other teams in the pot. I don't see anyone with the strength of squad that Man City do in that pot specifically. I see maybe better teams as a whole in terms of Atletico, like their cohesion's a lot better. But that can only get you so far. And of course, this is the pot where literally after this pot, no more English teams left, so we'll know where all the English teams lie after this pot. Obviously, they can't be in Group D. So that's out of the question, but this is where we'll find out.
Well, it is indeed. We are underway with the draw in terms of pot 2. We'll now finally start to know which teams are going to be facing off against who. And the first team out of the pot, they'll go into Group A, unless, of course, it is a team like Dortmund. It's going to be Atletico Madrid. So, Atletico Madrid, they should go into either B, E, F, G, or H, as far as I'm aware, from what I'm seeing. So, the balls are going to be put in here. Question is, where are Atletico Madrid going to go? This is going to make things interesting for me.
Oh no, they could only go in.
I don't think they can get Liverpool, can they?
Oh yeah. They can't be in E and A as well. Cause,
Let's find out.
E and B.
Florent
They're in
Maluda is in
Yeah.
A, which makes my job 100 times easier because I put them down there.
Bayern.
Atletico Madrid are going to be in Group A alongside Bayern Munich. Let's update that on the screen. It should come up now. So Atletico Madrid
Repeat.
are going to be going up
Repeat of
against
the
Bayern Munich. Here we go.
I was going to say repeat of the 2016 semis.
Is indeed. Very good point, actually. The next team out is going to be Chelsea. So Chelsea, of course, can't go in the same group as Liverpool. So they are exempt from Group D. We'll have to find out here where they go. So Chelsea are out. Let's find out which group they're going to be in. So Group A is Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid. We now have Chelsea, of course.
I reckon Group H.
If
Chelsea.
they get Porter Wars in it, I want to check Florent Maluda's hands after this. I think he's giving his old team the easy draw here.
So here we go. Florent Maluda's picked out the ball. Chelsea are going to go into Group... As he unfolds it, Group E, which means they're going to go alongside Sevilla, the Europa League champions. So Sevilla and Chelsea in Group E. That's a tasty one already.
Yeah, big fan of that. I feel two teams that could give each other a really good game.
So the next team out of the draw in terms of pot 2 is going to be Didier Drogba just unleashes it. Barcelona.
They're getting Group D. Watch this. They're getting Group D.
So, I mean,
C, D, F, G, or H.
You're spot on, Rowan. The question is Will going to be correct here? So Barcelona are out. Which group are they going to be in? Of course, they can't be the group with Real Madrid in Group B. And Florent Maluda, he uncovers the ball. And Barcelona are going to be in the same group as Group G, which is going to be with Juventus. So Barcelona and Juventus in Group G. What a group already.
Messi versus Ronaldo.
It is indeed. Messi v Ronaldo. Spot on with that. So Barcelona into Group G. That'll be updated on your screens in a moment for those of you watching. What a draw already. And the next team out is Ajax.
They can have anything, can't they?
They can have any of the groups, as far as I'm aware.
Put them in Zenit's group. Please put them in Zenit's group.
So here we go.
That's group.
They like to have like a bit of a weaker group, don't they? Where there's 2 weaker sides usually get through.
So Ajax are the next team out of the draw, and they are going to go into the group. I think B here. That's my slight feeling. Real Madrid and Ajax. Florida is going to draw
D.
out Group D. So they're going to go alongside Liverpool. That seems like a very hipster group already. Liverpool and Ajax in Group D. Good draw so far, Rowan. Will?
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take Ajax. There were some big guns that I didn't want. The one team I didn't want was Barca because I think they're playing with house money this year. They can surprise everybody. I'll take Ajax.
So the next team out the draw is Shakhtar Donetsk, as I said before. Surprised a lot of teams in the Europa League. They cannot be drawn in the same group as Zenit, so they can't be drawn in Group F, which means they can be drawn in Group H or Group B and C.
They can't be in the same group as City as well for the first time in 4 years.
They can't indeed, which is fantastic for non-City fans. And they're going to go in Group B, so they're going to be alongside Real Madrid. So that's Shakhtar and Real Madrid.
City going to have Porto or Zenit in their group.
Not PSG.
Or PSG. Please be PSG, because
Please give them a hard draw.
they never get a hard draw.
So
ever.
the next team out of the draw is Borussia Dortmund. So you'll be able to see on the screen right now, Shakhtar and Real Madrid. Of course, they can't go into the same group as Bayern Munich. We've already been drawn out. They could go into Group C, Group F, or Group H.
They're from the same nation, so can't they play on the same side? Haven't they got to be in Zenit or Thingy?
Yep, they should be. So it should be Zenit or PSG here. Are we going to see a repeat potentially of that Champions League game in the knockout stages? The answer is we absolutely aren't, because Zenit and Dortmund are going to be in Group F together.
Which means City have to play PSG?
You are absolutely spot on. City should be in Group H here.
Because they can't be on the same side as Liverpool, can they?
Which means the next team out is Manchester United, which means United will go into the same group
No, United get PSG.
as PSG. Which means Group H has Manchester United and PSG, a repeat of that knockout stage fixture.
Who's Group C?
City.
Who's in Group C at the moment? Oh, for fuck's sake.
Which means
They get it every year.
Manchester City will go into the same group as FC Porto. So we will go through the teams in a moment in terms of how Pot 2 has panned out so far. Let me just quickly update this. So, of course, the only group that is left for Manchester City is, of course, Group C. So that should be updated on your screens now. So to go through the groups, as it currently stands after Pot 2, there's some tasty fixtures on the table. Group A features Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid, two very good teams in there. Could already be looking like a group of death. Group B sees Real Madrid taking on Shakhtar. Good group so far for Real Madrid already in that one. Group C, we'll see FC Porto taking on Manchester City. There'll be a few Manchester City fans that will be delighted with how that group is looking already, but still a few big teams left in this group stage draw. Group D sees Liverpool facing off against Ajax. Of course, that'll be a good one for Will, so far I'll be happy with that. Group E sees Sevilla taking on Chelsea. Group F is Zenit St. Petersburg and Borussia Dortmund. Group G is Juventus and Barcelona. That is already becoming a group of death within itself. And Group H sees a repeat of that knockout stage fixture not too long ago. PSG and Manchester United. Of course, remember, there's still 2 more pots to go. What's your thoughts on these groups already with 2 pots left?
Some really good size.
Yeah.
But City once again have got away with it.
It's every year. As you put, I think yesterday, death taxes and Man City getting an easy group. But, admittedly, the other groups, you're looking at Juventus versus Barcelona. That's an unbelievable group. And who did Atletico have? Atletico had
Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich.
I mean, you don't get much more stellar than that. And even Sevilla-Chelsea, I feel like that's that under-the-radar game, which could be a goal fest. And that's what I'm hoping for in that one there. There's obviously some groups where you won't always get the colossal ties. Real Madrid v Shakhtar's not massive, but it still could be a fun game because I know you're a big fan of Shakhtar, Josh.
I am indeed. I think, to be honest, it's a good game on paper. It's probably not what Shakhtar wanted, but in terms of a match like that, two fairly attacking sides, and I think that'd be a great game to watch. And I think not necessarily a great game to watch, but a very good group overall. I know we've still got two teams to come out, and maybe the complexion of the group could change with the likes of Inter and that, but you must be delighted. Ajax in the group.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that because like we said, there were some big teams in that pot too, which would have made it very hard. But Ajax, the thing is with Ajax, I felt like that should have been the final when we got to the final. The way they lost to Spurs was just a complete and utter choke from them. They should have been in the final against us, but they're not the same team. They've lost a lot of pieces since then. So I think it's a game that on paper we look at and think it's a game that we should win, but it's always going to be tough. They're in there for a reason. But I would absolutely take Ajax over a team like Barcelona, for example.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if Barcelona come out, you had that slight worry there that maybe Barcelona was going to go into the same group as you, but it's okay. You've got Ajax. Yeah. So once again, for any of you that have just joined the stream, we'll run through the groups how they're looking so far. There's 2 more pots to go. And of course, put your opinions in the chat as well on what you think of the draw so far. I'm just looking right now. Of course, Bear Lovers put Suarez versus Liverpool. Potentially, if he wants to go back to Ajax, which of course it can't happen now. Got Football to Juventus versus the team that lost 8-2. Will be fun. Bear Lovers also put, for now, good for City and Liverpool. Alexa has put City get the easiest draw as per usual. And then Bear Lovers made a very good point. Di Maria will be returning against Manchester United in their group. So as you can see on the screen right now, for those of you that have just joined, here are the groups as they currently stand with 2 more pots still to go. In Group A, it's Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid. In Group B, it's Real Madrid and Shakhtar Donetsk. Group C is Porto and Manchester City. Group D is Liverpool and Ajax. Group E is Sevilla and Chelsea. Group F is Zenit and Dortmund. Group G is Juventus and Barcelona. And Group H is PSG and Manchester United. Before we have a quick look at the teams in Pot 3, the next award has come out for the Champions League. It is the midfielder of the season. And it's not a Bayern Munich player. This time it's gone to Belgium's Kevin De Bruyne. Right choice, do you think?
You know what? Based off of what he did in the Premier League for Man City, I think if he won in that City team, there's a legitimate chance that they could have finished even further behind Liverpool. And he was phenomenal in the Premier League. Obviously didn't manage to, get Man City over the hump in the Champions League, but in Europe as a whole, in all competitions, I think the award is definitely deserved. He was fantastic last season, Kevin De Bruyne.
He was a very, very good player indeed, and he gets that award. He's not there at the ceremony right now, just talking to him at the training camp, but fantastic player on his day. So Kevin De Bruyne there getting the Midfielder of the Season award. And while we wait, of course, as I said before, we've still got 2 more pots to go. Let's have a quick look at Pot 3 to see some of those sides that will be coming out in just a moment's time. So you'll be able to see it on your screen now. Pot 3 features Dynamo Kiev of Ukraine, FC Salzburg of Austria, RB Leipzig of Germany, Inter Milan of Italy, Olympiacos of Greece, Lazio of Italy, Krasnodar of Russia, and Atalanta of Italy. Now, Pot 3 usually tends to be weak, as you said before in the past, Will. There's some very good teams still in there, and you could say some of those groups that are looking a little bit weak, like Real Madrid and Shakhtar, might become a little harder here if they get teams like Inter Milan and Atalanta. Some tough teams there. So let's get ready for the draw. It's about to take place, I think, with the next set of teams. The question is, and I'll ask you, Will, of course, with being a Liverpool fan, who would you want to get from Pot 3?
I said it earlier. I want Lazio. I think that'd be a really interesting tie. I mean, they've not been in the Champions League for a while now. I know they've been in the Europa League the last few years, but I think Lazio. I think it'd be an interesting tie. I don't want Salzburg again. I want a different team this time. I don't want Inter because I think they'd be really tough. I think they're a bigger threat than Ajax, despite being in a lower pot. But yeah, Lazio is a team I'd want. I think that'd be a really nice matchup.
Be a very good matchup indeed. Is there any other teams that you guys want to see come up against, not exactly Liverpool, but other sides? maybe, of course, just looking right now, with still an opportunity for Inter Milan to come up against Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, I like to see Liverpool versus Lazio, Luis Alberto revenge game coming back after however many years. That'd be nice to see. I just want to see some really tasty ties, to be honest with you. Obviously, me, you, and Rowan don't have any connection really to any of these teams, so as neutrals, we just want best games possible. And I think that does come from the bigger teams in this pot. Unfortunately, you know, as much as Olympiacos plucked up a miracle against Arsenal last year, I don't think they'll have as much success here. And so I think I'm looking for Atalanta, because I think toe-to-toe they can go with anybody. You know, goal for goal anyway, maybe not defensively. But it's them Italian teams for me in this pot. You know, the English teams dominated pot 2. The Italian teams dominate this pot as well. And, of course, Leipzig, they're just going to be a tough team for anyone.
Absolutely, some very tough teams in there. And we're about to get underway with pot number 3. So we're about to see some more teams go into these groups. You can see right now on the screen as it currently stands in terms of those teams that were drawn out in pot number 2. Let's get ourselves ready, because Didier Drogba is having his balls rolled. Not his balls, of course, but the balls of the draw. Don't be dirty-minded. Here we go with the pot 3 section. The first team out in pot 3 is going to be FC Krasnodar. They came through, of course, last night in the playoffs against Greek side PAOK. So we'll find out who they are drawn up against in a second. And we watched them, Rowan. They didn't look amazing on the second night, but the important thing was they did very, very well indeed to get through to the group stages.
Yeah, they held on. PAOK looked good, but like I said, Krasnodar just stuck in there and. Well, they did it. They got the win and got the qualification. But yeah, they didn't look too convincing.
So here we go. Let's find out what group they are going to be put into. Florent Malouda here, just opening the first ball and the first team from pot 3. They're going to go into Group E, which is the group with Chelsea and Sevilla. So Sevilla, Chelsea, and Krasnodar form Group E as it currently stands. Chelsea probably be delighted with that draw so far. So you can see right now, Krasnodar on there. The next team to be drawn out is going to be, from Didier Drogba, RB Leipzig. Now this is one of the sides I think that there'll be some teams kind of not wanting to come up against them here.
Hwang Hee-chan.
Hwang Hee-chan, indeed, yeah. They've got a few good signings in there. Hwang Hee-chan, Soloff as well, another good signing. They're going to be a tough team to face, of course, making it into the semi-finals against Paris Saint-Germain before losing very disappointingly, to be honest. Question is, which group are they going to go into? Let's find out here. Florent Malouda opens up the ball. And RB Leipzig are going to go into Group H, which is alongside PSG and Manchester United. What a group. PSG, Man United, and Rasenball Leipzig forms Group H so far. What a group.
What I fear in that group is I think Oli could be outcoached easily by them two managers.
Talking about another team that could outcoach plenty of other sides. Atalanta. They've just been drawn out in this section of the drawing pot 3. So, question is where they're going to go. Fantastic side on their day. Atalanta surprised so many people in terms of how well they did in their first Champions League campaign last season. Really, really well. Unfortunately, lost it at the hands of PSG as well in that last-minute goal from Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. But Atalanta.
I hope Group F, because that group becomes very hipster, Josh, as you like to say.
Are going to be drawn with Group D. Liverpool, Ajax, and Atalanta. That really is a hipster group as well. What are your thoughts, Will?
That's a really, really interesting tie because, like you said, Atalanta, they score at will. And playing in their home stadium is going to be a tough game. But, again, I wanted Lazio, but it's a different Italian side. So, you know what, I'll take it. It's a really interesting tie. I'm looking forward to that one, definitely.
Should be a very good group. Looking very nice indeed. Olympiacos is the next team out of the draw. Bernaldo's put Group H, Group of Death, it's looking, and of course our boy Chupo Marting. So the next team out of the draw is going to be Olympiacos, as we said before. Groups A, B, and C, as far as I'm aware, are the 3 groups that they can be drawn into. And Florent Malouda, I've got a feeling this is going to be Group C. I'm very worried here. And the answer is they are in Group C. So Porto, Manchester City, and Olympiacos form Group number C. And I can't see the boys on my screen, but I assume there's some frustration in their faces.
Kieran's punching the air. Right?
All smiles over it.
Kieran was just punching the air.
Celebrations for Manchester City fans. They've got Olympiacos and Porto. Next team out is Dynamo Kiev of Ukraine. They are going to go into Group G.
City not ready for El Arabi. City not ready for El Arabi. You watch.
They're not. They're going to be worried indeed. So Group G, Dynamo Kiev go into, which is the group with Juventus and Barcelona. So Dynamo Kiev have got a very tough job on their hands after getting through in the Champions League playoffs. So that is Group G sorted out, which will be on our screen in just a moment's time. There we go. Next team out is FC Salzburg. They can go into Groups A and B. Now, Real Madrid and Shakhtar, or Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid. Either way, they're probably praying for Group B more than Group A in terms of the teams right now. And Florent Malouda, he picks out the ball, and they're going to go into Group A. So that's Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, and FC Salzburg. You could say that's looking like a very tasty group indeed. Salzburg in the past have done very good in European competitions, but they're going to have a tough job on their hands against the European champions and Atletico Madrid. So that is Group A, which means Inter Milan are going to go into either Group F or B, and they can only go into Group B, which means Real Madrid, Shakhtar, and Inter Milan. A group that was looking tasty might be a little bit worrying now for teams in Pot 4. And that finally means there's one more team left out to draw here. They're going to go into Group F alongside Zenit and Borussia Dortmund, and that team is Lazio. So Lazio, Dortmund, and Zenit form Group F. So let me save that there. That is Pot 3 out of the way. And as you'll be able to see on your screen right now, Group A currently stands as Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, and FC Salzburg. Group B is Real Madrid, Shakhtar Donetsk, and Inter Milan. That group was looking tasty at first. Now, I've got to say that's a very tight one indeed. Group C, Porto, Manchester City, and Olympiacos. If you are not a Manchester City fan, Kieran, look away. Very disappointing for those. But for Man City fans, they'll be delighted with that. Very easy draw so far. Group D, Liverpool, Ajax, and Atalanta, which I've got to say I think is the hipster group so far. Group E is Sevilla, Chelsea, and FC Krasnodar. Group F, Zenit, Dortmund, and Lazio. Group G, it's a tough one. Juventus, Barcelona, and Dynamo Kiev. Question is who's going to come out of that group? Probably Kiev. Group H, the toughest, I think you could say, PSG, Manchester United, and RB Leipzig. Kieran D, look away if he's watching this stream or he's seen the draw. That is a bloody tough group, and I don't know whether you'd agree. Toughest group so far?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
By far.
I mean, 3 very, very good teams on their days, as you alluded to earlier, Will. Potential chance maybe of Ola getting outclassed in terms of the managers in that group. Some very, very good teams on paper there in that group. Group G, Juventus, Barcelona, and Kiev. This year, Slavia Prague, Rowan, will they be a little bit disappointed or delighted being drawn against two of Europe's elite teams?
Yeah. I think it's one of them things you really don't know till you play the game, because you could get to the game and that team could have multiple injuries that can really thing. I think if there was crowds, amazing for them, because you get to play. Your crowd gets to go to these big teams, but when it's obviously this COVID era, it probably isn't the best.
It'll be a shame because, as you said there, for fans, they will have really wanted to have gone to these fixtures. They are two, of Europe's most elite teams ever. I mean, Juventus and Barcelona, you'd expect them to go quite far in this competition. That is Group G. Group F, Zenit, Dortmund and Lazio. That's looking like quite a fun group, to be honest, because although Zenit will maybe be a little bit disappointed with the draw, you could say that is quite an open group, to be honest. It all depends on who comes out in the final pot, but 3 very good teams on the day. And of course, Dejan Lovren as well, who formerly scored against Dortmund in the Europa League, just to bring that one up.
He did indeed. Absolute legend.
Absolute beast he is. Group E, Sevilla, Chelsea and Krasnodar. Fairly happy Chelsea fans, do you think?
Oh, yeah. They'll be the second happiest set of English fans today.
And of course, there'll be one set of English fans who will be delighted right now. But before that, of course, as you can see, we've got the other groups as well. Group I just come up with the wrong group there. There we go. That's the group I wanted to get. Group D, Liverpool, Ajax and Atalanta. That is the hipster group, isn't it? Well, it's an interesting one. It's
a really interesting one because I think you've got 3 sides there that on the day, when they raise their level, they can beat anybody. And Atalanta, they are a team that score at will, like I said. But it's going to be a fun time. I mean, like I said, you could arguably say that Atalanta are a better team than Ajax, but I think Liverpool are obviously the favourites in the group. But depending who we get in pot 4, without a doubt, those 3 other teams they'd be fighting for that second spot because it is very open.
100%. Looking forward to that group. There'll be people clamouring to get that one on when we do the goals watch-alongs, because no doubt you'll expect goals in that group. Group C, we have to come on to it, of course. FC Porto, Man City and Olympiacos. Man City fans must be so happy right now because no matter what, even who comes out in the 4th pot here, they've got a great group on paper and you'd expect them to come out with flying colours. As for Porto and Olympiacos, you could look at it to a certain extent and say, not a bad group for them either, because there was much tougher groups and potentially there's a way out for either side. You never know. It's an interesting one.
It's a group that doesn't have 2 heavyweights, whereas most groups, they have the 2 heavyweights of pot 1 and pot 2, and that Olympiacos aren't the upper echelons of pot 3, but Porto weren't the upper ones of pot 1. I think when you look at pot 1, you eyed up Zenit and Porto as the 2 teams you thought, if you've got a chance, you want to get them. So for them two, it's a real good chance to get second in the group and make it, earn a bit more money to get through in the Champions League. So I understand it from that point of view, of course.
Absolutely. Group B, Real Madrid, Shakhtar and Inter Milan. Well, they came up last year against Barcelona. They're now got to come up against the opposite side in Spain, Real Madrid, but Shakhtar as well. They'll be a little bit worried in terms of how that group's panned out. And of course, Group A, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, FC Salzburg. I've got to say, that looks like a bloody good group on paper as well, because we said it before, and the guys are saying it in the chat as well. Bear Love saying poor Salzburg, but Bernaldo said Salzburg are a good side. They could scrap through. What do you think of that group?
Salzburg they are a good side, but the teams that are in it are very tough. But I do agree, Salzburg, they will take it to any opponent. I mean, they saw it at Anfield, they were fearless. I know they've lost Haaland, obviously, but that young kid, that Patson Daka, he looks like a talent, and I think this is definitely a chance for him to emerge and show himself to other European clubs. It's going to be tough for them no matter what, because of the other teams that are in there. But they'll always give 100%. Salzburg, I saw it last year against Liverpool. They are tough to play against, but we'll have to see how they do.
It's a very tough draw indeed. Before we go on to the final groups to come out, here is pot 4 and the teams that are going to come out in a moment's time. Still some tough teams in there. Lokomotiv Moscow of Russia, Marseille of France, Club Brugge of Belgium, Gladbach of Germany, Istanbul Basaksehir of Turkey. First time they've made the competition as well. Midtjylland came through last night in the playoffs. Stade Rennais of France and Ferencváros, of course, of Hungary. Some interesting teams still in there. Marseille, Gladbach and Rennes are probably the 3 of the bigger sides in there. But of course, the likes of Ferencváros, Midtjylland, they'll just be excited to see who they get. And they've just got the other award up as well, the attacker of the season, or forward of the season, Robert Lewandowski. It was expected, and he should have won Ballon d'Or, shouldn't he, really? I'm kind of a bit disappointed that they haven't got Ballon d'Or this year. They've robbed him.
Yeah, there was a whole thing like they were saying they only got rid of it because it's not going to be Messi and Ronaldo winning it for the first time in however long, which, be that true or not, the man deserves so much more credit than what he got given up until this season. It took everyone a while to notice how bloody good he is. But he's getting older, but he's getting better. So I hope they just decide to give him the Ballon d'Or trophy, even if there's not going to be a ceremony or anything like that, because the years still continued relatively normal, as weird as that seems to say. Every competition finished, so why should the Ballon d'Or finish? Just because none of the other leagues did, apart from apart from League 1, but they're sponsored by Uber Eats, so it's fine. Just finish the Ballon d'Or.
It's a very fair point indeed, but it's nice to see him there in his little swanky bow tie. He's not gone for the usual shirt and tie. Well, he has, but he's obviously gone for the bow tie instead. But he looks very happy with himself, and I'm glad for him because he's a fantastic player. But we can now finally get on to the last pot. We will know in about 5 minutes' time all the 4 teams in the groups, just to quickly run through one more time before the draw comes back on again for the final pot. Group A is Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid and FC Salzburg. Group B, Real Madrid, Shakhtar and Inter Milan. Group C, Porto, Man City, Olympiacos. Group D is Liverpool, Ajax and Atalanta. Group E, Sevilla, Chelsea, Krasnodar. Group F, Zenit, Dortmund and Lazio. Group G, Juventus, Barcelona and Dinamo Kiev. And Group H, PSG, Man United and RB Leipzig. And one more time for those of you that have just joined, there are the teams in pot 4. Still some very good sides in there. Marseille, Gladbach, Stade Rennes, and a couple of unknown sides as well to many. The likes of Ferencváros of Hungary, Midtjylland as well, who got through the playoffs last night. So we're about to get underway in a moment with the final set of teams in the Champions League group stages reveal. It's taken nearly an hour and a half to get through it, but we finally got there. We will actually know the official groups in a moment when Didier Drogba pulls out the first ball. Are we looking forward to it? Will, I've got to ask you actually, who would you like out of pot 4?
I want Ferencváros should be interesting just because they've not been in it for so long, and I'd like to see how they play against us. Would they ever get absolutely thrashed, or would they give us a good game? Either them or one of the French teams.
Well, just as you say that, Marseille have been pulled out, which is, of course, an interesting one. They can only be drawn, as far as I'm aware, in groups A, B, C, or D. So we'll see what happens in a moment with this draw. I'm probably going to be horribly wrong here, and it's E, F, G, and H. But we'll find out here as Malouda picks out the first ball. Marseille, the first team out of pot 4, which I think will be a relief to many. And they are going to go into Group C, I think, from what I'm seeing there. It is indeed Group C. Is he going to pull it up? He seems to be hiding it like it's a secret.
Yeah.
It's Group C, which is Porto, Man City and Olympiacos. And I got worried there because it was taking a bloody long time to show us which group it was. But Marseille in Group C. Interesting one, that one. Marseille, very good side on the day, managed by former Chelsea manager Andre Villas-Boas. So that's the first team out of pot 4. The second team out is Lokomotiv Moscow. Question is, which groups can they go into? It's groups A or D. So they could come up against Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid or Salzburg, or Liverpool, Ajax and Atalanta. I think right now Will be having his fingers crossed here that Lokomotiv Moscow go into Group D. And that question is going to be answered as Malouda draws them out in Group A. So they go alongside Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid and Salzburg. Do you know what? Not bad for Salzburg there because, of course, remember, if they do finish 3rd, you do go into the Europa League, so they can at least fight for that. So that is Lokomotiv Moscow into Group A. Next team out of pot 4 is going to be Club Brugge. Club Brugge, a team that did very well actually against Real Madrid, and they could potentially come up here against them once again, but they can be drawn into various groups here, not just B and D. I think they can be drawn into F, G, H and E as well, so all the options are there on the table. Once again, I think maybe Liverpool fans, even just looking at some of the other groups there, Chelsea fans will be praying they can be drawn out here. And the answer for Club Brugge is that they will be going into Group, taking this down here, Group F, which is Zenit, Dortmund and Lazio. Gotta say, that is a very open group on paper. I don't know whether you guys would agree or not.
Yeah.
Funky fun
Very
group.
open. Mm.
We do like a funky fun group, and that was where Club Brugge will be going in Group F, which we'll update on your screen now so you can see it. There we go, Group F is officially completed. Next team out is going to be Istanbul Basaksehir, Turkish
I don't
side.
want these. I do not want these.
They've got former Premier League stars, well, if you can call them stars, Gael Clichy, Robinho as well. He's still there. A couple of other players on the side. Gökhan Inler, former Napoli player.
Martin Skirtle.
Skirtle, yeah, I forgot about him. Skirtle's return. It's written in the stars, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I don't want. I think they're a tough team. Istanbul, Başakşehir.
And the answer to that question is Istanbul Başakşehir are going to be entering into Group H. So that is a group with PSG, Man United, and RB Leipzig. So an interesting group, that one.
It's a really tough group.
As you said, Istanbul, they've got some good players on their side. First ever time they've been in the Champions League, so I'm interested to see how they do. Next team out, off the draw.
Always tough to travel to Turkey as well and get a win.
Oh, definitely. Next team out the draw, Stade Rennes. Good side. First time they've been in the Champions League as well. Got a quality team on paper. They've got some good players on the sides. They could be drawn into groups B, D, G, and I think E as well. Pretty much all the ones that are left. I mean, it's one of those teams where I think you don't really want to get them here.
No, I said one of the French teams, but I'd rather not. I'd rather not get Stade Rennes, to be honest with you, because I think they are a tough outing.
So
I've got a feeling we're gonna get them here.
B, D, E, or G they can be drawn into, and the answer is Stade Rennes will be going into Group E. That is alongside Sevilla, Chelsea, and Krasnodar. That is an interesting one on paper to see who finishes second.
Edouard Mendy faces his old team.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He does indeed. That is a very good call indeed. So let's update that on the stream. You can see right now Group E has got all 4 teams in, which means we're starting to get towards those playoff sides. And just as I say that, FC Midtjylland got a fantastic win against Slavia Prague in the playoff fixtures. They could be drawn into B, D, and I think G as well. All the 3 that are left. The question is, are they going to go into Liverpool's group, or will they join alongside the likes of Real Madrid and Inter Milan? Florent Malouda, he chooses his ball precisely. Is it going to be the ball of Group D? The answer is Midtjylland are going to be going into Group D. They'll be joining Liverpool. Delighted, Will?
Yeah, I'll take that. No disrespect, they are one of the weaker teams in Group D. Fair play to them, they've got here. Like Rowan said, they showed a lot of heart. Sorry, Rowan, that they destroyed Slavia Prague and Olyinka. But maybe we can get revenge for you and beat them.
Might have to get revenge on them indeed. So Midtjylland into Group D. Next team out is Gladbach. Now Gladbach, they can go only into Group B. What a group this is. Real Madrid, Shakhtar, Inter Milan and Gladbach. You know, we looked at that. That's an interesting group. Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say, you know, you look at that on paper, and when Real Madrid and Shakhtar was drawn out, you were looking quite happy with that. Now, it's like a group of death, and that means the final ball of the Champions League group stage draw, they will go into the group with Juventus and Barcelona. Ferencváros are in Group G. What a draw for Ferencváros of Hungary. They'll be delighted at the fact that they're going to be playing some of Europe's best sides, which means that the draw is now officially completed. It's taken them an hour and a half to do it, but we have made it in the end, and we can go through each of the groups now. So Group A is Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, FC Salzburg, and Lokomotiv Moscow. Group B is Real Madrid, Shakhtar Donetsk, Inter Milan, and Gladbach. Group C, FC Porto, Manchester City, Olympiacos, and Olympique de Marseille. And Group D, Liverpool, Ajax, Atalanta, and Midtjylland. Groups E, Sevilla, Chelsea, Krasnodar, and Stade Rennes. Group F, Zenit, Dortmund, Lazio, and Club Brugge. Group G, Juventus, Barcelona, Dinamo Kiev, and Ferencváros. And Group H, PSG, Manchester United, RB Leipzig, and Istanbul Başakşehir. Some very, very tasty draws in there. The question is, boys, what's the group of death, do you think, in the Champions League this season?
Group H.
I'd say H.
Group H?
Yeah. You've got PSG, United, and Leipzig. And you know, Başakşehir, they could be a real dark horse in this competition. If all them other 3 sides get caught up in each other, and Başakşehir just sneak a couple of points.
That's the best part. I mean, I feel bad for Mbappe when he's in Skirtle's back pocket for 2 games in back-to-back games. So, joking aside, I think that's the group of death. I think the other ones have got very good teams, but that one's got 3 real teams that I don't know who's gonna pop up. And as Rowan said, if Istanbul could sneak a few points here and there, we could see one of the bigger sides drop to 4th in the group, just because of the way that group is.
It's a very, very good group indeed. I think the other group that people will be looking out at and thinking that's a bloody tough one is Group B. Real Madrid, Shakhtar Donetsk, Inter Milan and Gladbach. 4 very good sides on their day. And of course, we've said before, don't sleep on Shakhtar Donetsk because they made the semi-finals of the Europa League last season. That's such a good group on paper. And I've got to say, I feel sorry for Inter Milan again because they were joining a group of death last season. You could say that is kind of another group of death for them.
Yeah. Sadly, I said at the start, my dark horses were Gladbach if the draw fell the right way. Well, the draw fell the wrong way, massively wrong way, and they've ended up with one of the toughest groups. And as you said, teams that sadly we're going to see one of these teams not play European football at all. Even if one of them's got to drop out of all competitions and not just the Europa.
Which is
I think though
sad to say, isn't it? Because there are 4 very good teams on the day.
I was just going to say, I think that what you could see in that group is, well, you could see all them teams kind of beating up on each other. I think that they could all beat each other, and it'd be very interesting, especially when we get to the final match days, who actually goes through. I think it's very evenly matched.
It is indeed a very good group. As for Liverpool, of course, we've got to talk about them. Will, what do you think of the draw? Because there's some interesting ties on there in Group D.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the result of the draw. Could have been a lot worse. You've seen the situation Man United are in, obviously they're in pot 2, so it's different for them, but we could have still got drawn against some pretty tough teams. So for the fact that we've come out with Atalanta, Ajax and Midtjylland, I'm very happy with that, and I'm looking forward to the Champions League season to start.
It's a very, very good draw indeed. Of course, KD isn't with us today, unfortunately, but I think he'd be very nervous with that Group H draw with PSG, Man United, Leipzig and Istanbul. And then, of course, looking at some of the other draws as well, Manchester City fans will be happy with that one. Porto, Man City, Olympiacos and Marseille. And to be honest, if you actually kind of look at the draw, pretty much every Premier League side, apart from Manchester United, will probably be fairly happy with their draw. Some pretty decent teams in there, and I think even for Liverpool, it's a winnable group compared to what Manchester United have got. So, one more time to run over the groups. We've got Group A, which is Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, FC Salzburg and Lokomotiv Moscow. Group B, Real Madrid, Shakhtar, Inter Milan and Gladbach. A tough group on paper. As we said before, one of those teams is going to have to drop out of European football, which is a real shame. Group C, FC Porto, Man City, Olympiacos and Marseille. I think that's an interesting group, as I alluded to earlier. That's going to be an interesting fight for second place because, Porto and Marseille, 2 very good sides on their day, and even Olympiacos can be a tough place to go to sometimes. Group D, Liverpool, Ajax, Atalanta and Midtjylland. Group E, Sevilla, Chelsea, Krasnodar and Stade Rennes, with the return of Edouard Mendy to Rennes, of course. That'll be an interesting game. Group F, Zenit, Dortmund, Lazio and Club Brugge. That's, I think, a funky fun one, as we said, on paper. Group G, Juventus, Barcelona, Dinamo Kiev and Ferencvaros. To be honest, Ferencvaros will probably be delighted with that. Got through the group stages, and now they get to face off against some of Europe's elites. And then, of course, Group H, PSG, Manchester United, RB Leipzig and Istanbul Basaksehir. Key dates, once again, you can see on your screen. The first match day of the Champions League is on the 20th to 21st of October. For the first 3 weeks, it's on every single week. And then there's a slight break, and then it returns at the end of November for another 3 weeks straight, where the group stages finish on the 9th of December before the draw, which is in a couple of days afterwards. And that is the draw for now. I've got to say thank you very much, boys, for joining us. Very, very greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Apologies about the lag at times as well. We had a few issues, but we seem to have been able to sort them out, and we've done very, very well. But as for now, a massive thank you to the boys. Very, very greatly appreciated. We'll be back tomorrow for the group stage draw of the Europa League. That starts we're going to start about 11:30. This draw should start about 12. I don't think they're going to really have many things to do compared to what they've done today, so we should be all right in terms of the draw times, but we'll have a countdown and things like that. As for now, if you're new as always, do leave a like and a subscription. It is very, very greatly appreciated as always. But as for now, have a great rest of your evening, and we will see you guys later. Thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.
Mate, yeah, fucking dickheads out there.